Hello, dear viewers, and welcome to an episode on an altogether new area, and that is analysis of budget 22-23. I have done a little bit of work, background work, as far as this budget is concerned. Also, I have taken into account some of the budget speeches that were made in the last 6-7 years, not all, in between years. Maybe I'll make a mention of those. And what is the implication of this budget as far as 22-23 year is concerned? So I'm asking a question. Is an annual exercise of budget presentation just a game of numbers, or is it a profound exercise? Now, very important, first we will look at what are the areas the budget is looking at or focusing rather. And we can go ahead as to the objectives of budget as well. Before I begin this, I would like to mention two quotes here. One by Barack Obama. He says, budget is more than just a series of numbers on a page. It is an embodiment of our values. A very profound word, I would say, embodiment of our values. So if I connect the concept of budget to India, we talk about the Indian values and what as Indians we think how this year is going to be. Second very profound saying is from Ms. Rosette. Budgeting is not just for people who don't have enough money. It is for everyone who wants to ensure that their money is enough. I believe these two statements in this saying, it is not just for people who don't have enough money, and the second part, it is for everyone who wants to ensure that whatever little they have or whatever money they have is good enough. Now let's get down to analysis of the budget. First, I would like to begin with the budget vision. Finance Minister in a presentation of budget mentioned about Amrit Kaal, that is India at 100. So first thing we need to understand, what are we talking about? This year, our country is celebrating Amrit Mahotsav, the 75th year of independence. And Amrit Kaal talks about the years 76 to 100. So that means whatever numbers or whatever budget is presented in this year on 1st of February, that budget earmarks how India will look at in the next 25 years. So it is a foresight budget. That is what the experts are mentioning. Now, which are the areas or the vision of the budget that is focused? Complementing the macroeconomic level growth focus with a microeconomic level all-inclusive welfare focus. Obviously, the picture is larger, but in that larger picture, we have many smaller pictures as well. This is one of the vision. The second that we have is promoting digital economy and fintech, which is the present day technology, technology-enabled development, energy transition, and climate action. These are all very important major areas that the budget focuses on. And third, very important budget vision is relying on virtuous cycle, starting from private investment with public capital investment, helping to crowd in private investment. So the third vision more so speaks about the government's idea of disbursement and the government encouragement for private participation. We say less governance, more of opportunities to the private sector. So these are the three major visions that we have as far as this budget has. There are two major focus areas of budget. One is blueprint for Amrit Kaal, that is India at 100. I just mentioned about the years between 76 to 100. And second, very important, is building modern infrastructure through big public investment. These are the two major focus areas of this budget. Now, there are very important 4 priorities in the budget that we are going to talk about. The first one, a new terminology in the dictionary of all Indians is the Pradhan Mantri GatiShakthi. This is a new terminology that we have. Possibly I'll be able to explain what is this PM GatiShakthi. Second, as we have seen in almost all budgets in the last 15-18 years, inclusive development. Third, productivity enhancement and investment, sunrise opportunities, energy transition, and climate action. So again, very important priority. And the last one is financing of investment. More and more private participation, public participation, building modern infrastructure for our nation. Now let's get down to what are the aspects, the new terms, the new terminology, the new sectors, the new lookout as far as this budget is concerned. I put forward a small table, and in that table we have some old terms, we have some new terms, and those which are marked in blue are the areas that I'm going to discuss in today's presentation. So as far as the old points are concerned, we have as usual the micro, small and medium enterprises, agriculture, housing for all, Ayushman Bharat, the digital mission, solar power, food processing, Ken Bato, there is liver inking project that we are talking about, the NSQF, National Skills Qualification Framework and Startups, digital payments, Har Ghar Nal Se Jal, that is 24 hours water supply in all the houses, then housing for all, urban development, the IBC, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, government procurement and the minimum support price, that is for farmers, digital banking. Then newer terms that we have is PM GatiShakthi, then Universalisation of Quality Education, mention of digital university. Then the new one we have is National Telemental Health Program, circular economy. There are some points that are marked in blue over here because my focus of the presentation will be on those items. National Telemental Health Program, NIMHANS is the nodal institution in the country. There is already a telehealth, app, eSanjeevani across India. But government now has focused on the mental health of the people. That is after the pandemic, a lot of people have gone into depression due to loss of jobs, fall in their income level, death of family members, and many other reasons. So possibly, I believe this is one of the good moves that has been initiated by the government. Then we have battery swapping policy. We will be discussing a little on this. Why not charging? Why only swapping? Then Atmanirbharta in defense. I think a very proud moment if whatever was said in the budget is sees the light of the day. Then solar power, Parvatmala, there is a building up of ropeways, very, very important, both from the necessity as well as the tourism point of view. Then the Prime Minister's Development Initiative of Northeastern Region, PM Divine Region. Then anytime, anywhere, post office savings. So involvement of post office in the banking stream of our country. Then digital e-passports. Then land records management, accelerated corporate exits. So those companies which want to go into voluntary liquidation instead of fulfilling that long procedure. So a quick exit is made available to such corporates. Then another area is AVGC, which stands for animation, visual effects, gaming, and comic. So a task force has been formed, will be formed to look into this particular area, which provides a great opportunity for employment for the millennials in our country. Then we have sunrise opportunity sector, more to do with artificial intelligence, technology related more so. Then blended finance, issue of green bonds, then energy transition and climate action. Very important aspect is digital assets, the taxation of digital asset that everyone is talking about. Then digital rupee, digital currency, financial assistance to states, that is from the center. Then we have the gift IFSC. Then we have litigation management. This is another area that we may focus a little time on that. Then indirect taxes, a little on GST and customs, blending of fuel, the mix of ethanol with the fossil fuel that the government is talking about. And then our focus will be on the direct tax part, the virtual or digital assets taxation, rationalization of surcharge, health and education cess clarity, then deterrence against tax evasion, rationalizing TDS provisions. And finally, I would like to conclude the presentation. Now let's focus on PM GatiShakthi. This is, I believe, one of the major moves that the budget focuses on. And it is specified very clearly. There are 7 engines for the economic growth of Indian economy in totality, you can say. Which are the 7 ones? That is, first is roadways, building up beautiful roads across the length and breadth of the country. And I think the government is doing great work, and the credit of this goes to Nitin Gadkari sir, because I believe, he is into that great work of, construction of beautiful roads across the length and breadth of the country. So building roads, railways growth, the budget speaks about 300 trains, 400 trains rather, in the next 3 years. So development of railways, then development of airports is the third area. Then development of ports, the seaport, development of mass transit system, whether it is metros, whether it is the local transport, so mass transit system, then development of waterways, and finally logistics and infrastructure development. These are the 7 engines that Pradhan Mantri, Prime Minister GatiShakthi talks about. I believe it's a wonderful move, and if I believe the 7 areas are focused upon, we should see an all-round development as far as our economy is concerned. Let's move to the second part. That is universalization of quality education. Now we have seen it was COVID time, and children, especially from the rural areas, have had trouble as far as their education is concerned. And they have lost formal education for last 2 years because of the pandemic. And the reach of technology was not as much in rural areas as we found in the urban parts of our country. So the government has thought about one class, one channel program of PM E-Vidya, and that will be expanded presently from 12 channels to 200 channels to provide supplementary education in regional languages from class 1 to 12 students. I believe this is a great move, because with the new technology coming in, the UGC also focusing on blended learning, I think it would be a great opportunity for the young students to connect with technology from a very young age in their education as they move on to their pre-university and their higher education as well. So I believe this is a wonderful move from 12 channel. Also, there is an opportunity for translation as well in local regional languages, that is from class 1 to 12. That is also a great initiative of the government through this budget. Then we have battery swapping policy. It was very interesting to note in the budget presentation, finance minister did mention that there is space constraints in our country to set up charging stations. And instead of setting up charging stations, the budget specifically speaks about setting up of battery swapping policy and special mobility zone for electric vehicles, and thereby improve and enhance the EV ecosystem. I believe this is not a great move. The reason that I would say is, if we are focusing on charging vehicles in our houses, we don't have to pay anything apart from the increase in electricity bill that we may have, which may be a marginal increase. But if we are talking about battery swapping, then possibly the buyers of electric vehicle may have to pay monthly rent to such companies. And when rent is being paid, or when battery is replaced, definitely there comes in GST, which I believe will bring in additional revenue for the government. So this is more so looked at from the revenue point of view. That is what I can analyze. Because a simple vehicle, and if you can charge at your home, it will only lead to marginal increase in your electricity bill. Going ahead, maybe 4 or 5 years down the line, the battery can definitely has to be replaced, but not on regular basis as we are talking on battery swapping policy. Possibly the revenue aspect is one that the government has thought about as far as this particular policy is concerned. Very important, that we need to be proud of if these numbers as implemented sees light of the day. Atmanirbharta in defense. 68% of the defense spending will be for Made in India initiative. A very good move as far as giving that fillip or that encouragement to Made in India initiatives of the government. Less imports of defense equipments and setting up of defense R&D with 25% of the defense R&D budget earmarked. So again, a very good move, depending less on imports and rather building our own R&D with the help of Defense Research Development Organization with proper encouragement and involvement of private sector as well. So private industries to take up design and development of military platforms and equipments. That is in collaboration with the DRDO, Defense Research and Development Organization. I believe this is one of the most proud moment that we have as far as our present budget is concerned. Anytime, anywhere, post office savings. Again, I would say a good move, but I am not very sure as far as its application is concerned, because here we are more so looking at duplication of services. Whatever services the banking sector is providing, the government in its budget is saying in this year 2022, 100% of the 1.5 lakh post offices, they will be providing core banking services. So of this 1.5 lakh, let's imagine that 40 to 50,000 are in semi-urban or urban areas. And the services, banking services will only be duplicated. Maybe in some pockets of rural areas where there is no availability of banks. In that case, this may work wonders as far as that local area is concerned. And definitely the idea of involving post office and converting core banking solution services is to benefit farmers and senior citizens who reside in rural areas. So though 1.5 lakh post offices will be involved, but I doubt around 50 to 60,000 post offices may not have the kind of effect it should have after implementation of these services because of their location and not anything to do with their capacity. This is about the post office portion. Then land records management. This again, I believe, looks a little difficult as far as implementation is concerned. So states will be encouraged to adopt unique land parcel identification number to facilitate IT-based management of records with translation in Schedule 8 languages. Now, most of the states have their own system. They have already initiated a technology when it comes to recording. And translation of languages obviously is also possible in different states. But center taking the initiative of doing it and the state governments agreeing to it looks a little difficult because national records of land, I believe, is a little difficult thing thought to digest. One nation, one registration software, when it comes to land record registration across India, will be promoted as an option for uniform process for registration and anywhere registration of deeds and documents. So though this initiative looks great, but I doubt as far as its implementation and application is concerned, because this would require the agreement of all the states. So due to political reasons, many of the states may not come forward and take up this initiative at all. But it's an okay move, but feasibility is, I think we need to check. Time to come will only give us clarity on this aspect. Very important, digital rupee. Digital rupee will be introduced through Central Bank Digital Currency Initiative, the CBDC, through blockchain and other technologies, leading to cheaper currency management system. Perfectly right. And this will be flagged off by the Reserve Bank of India. Maybe till this time, the Reserve Bank of India was following, or rather the government was following the wait and watch policy. What is happening with the cryptocurrencies? But then those currencies are no longer cryptocurrency, rather they are called crypto digital assets, or rather you can simply call them as digital asset. That's what was clarified. Any currency issued by RBI is digital currency. Other than RBI cannot be called as a currency, rather it will be called as a digital asset. We will talk about that particular aspect. Then another very interesting move is financial assistance to states. For the current financial year 22-23, the central assistance to states will be to the tune of 1 lakh crore in the form of an interest-free loan for a term period of 50 years. So point to note, this is not a straightforward assistance. It is like a long-term, or rather longer than long-term, a 50 years loan that this government is making available to all the states to the tune of 1 lakh crore. I believe it's a good move, and also it stresses a little on corporate federalism, where the states and the center work in tandem, obviously for infrastructure development, starting from the state, obviously percolating to the local as well as the regional level. This amount is over and above the normal borrowings which are allowed to the state. There are set borrowings that a state can do with central government. This is apart from that, a interest-free loan that the government is making available to all the states. The premise of this allocation, as mentioned, is to support the state initiative in creating productive assets and generating remunerative employment. So employment is the focus by creating productive assets. It's very much required, and I believe this is a good move, and all the states may take up the initiative of borrowing from central government and helping themselves in putting up beautiful infrastructure, creating productive assets, and thereby generating employment to the young and the old. So a good move in the budget. Capital expenditure, an unbelievable movement, rather I should say, 35.4% raise in capital expenditure of the government. This is from 5.5 lakh crore last year to 7.50 lakh crore in the current financial year, that is 22-23. This is an unbelievable move because there are two ways where employment can be generated. One is through government spending, and this capital expenditure, a sharp rise of 35.4%, definitely looks a positive initiative, where more the government spends, the more will be the employment created. And second way of creating employment is putting money in the hands of the people. When you put money in the hands of the people, if there is higher amount of residual amount in the hands of the people, the spending will be more, and that's how the economy will grow. Maybe we will speak about the second part a little later, but the first part, a good initiative where the government is has put forward the numbers of a sharp or a steep increase of 35.4%. And that's a great move. And definitely, I believe if done, it will really create employment opportunities. Also, this contribution of 7.50 lakh crore is almost 2.9% of our GDP. I believe that's a good move. And we should be able to see the effects of this in this coming financial year 22-23. Next is on indirect taxes. So indirect taxes, the finance minister could not speak much about the GST because finance minister cannot make any announcement regarding GST through a budget, because the highest decision-making body for GST is the GST Council. But there was an astonishing number that the finance minister presented in the budget. She mentioned that GST revenues are buoyant, and this month, the immediate January month, saw a collection of 1,40,986 crore. This is highest for any month after the introduction of GST since July 2017. So obviously the economy is little robust. People are spending, people are buying, people are now moving out of their houses. The economy has started to work, is coming back to its full steam, I should say, in times to come. So about GST revenue, an astonishing figure that we have. Then there are some proposed reforms to the custom administration of special economic zone, an initiative to make it fully IT driven and at the same time function on the custom national portal. So that again is a good move. Then reducing tariff, moderate tariff of 7.5% on certain project imports. If Indian company is into putting forward certain projects and creating capital goods, manufacturing capital goods for which spare parts are required, then a moderate tariff of 7.5% has been put, so that the production Make in India initiative gets a fillip again. Also, some exemptions, a few important inputs will continue. And this is only to encourage domestic manufacturing of capital goods. So once again, a good initiative in as far as customs is concerned. Let's move on to our last area, that is direct taxes. I should say there are no major changes as far as direct taxes are concerned. One good relief for the teachers and students, you can say, as far as those who are studying the subject direct taxes. So there is a mention of introduction of a new updated returns in case of correction or omission, and that has to be filed within 2 years from the end of the relevant assessment year. So if you have made an omission, if there is a mistake that you have done, then possibly you can do so, because you don't have to go through the lengthy process which is there right now, education process. Because if we understand that there is something called as revised return, if we believe if you have already filed the returns and thereafter you realize that there are some mistakes in the returns that you have filed, you could have always gone through the revised returns and refile your returns again. But that procedure might have taken long, especially in case of companies. So that is now given a proper channel where a new updated form specifically will be made available and applicable not just for companies, for any of the persons that we have. So within 2 years from the end of the relevant assessment year. A good initiative as far as reduction of alternate tax. The alternate managed tax we have for cooperatives, that is from 18.5% to 15%. That is on par with the companies. So alternate minimum tax for cooperatives reduced by nearly 3.5%. Then surcharge on cooperatives also, which was at 12% for total income between 1 crore to 10 crore, is now reduced from 12% to 7%. So again, a good move for cooperatives, because cooperatives more so are to do with farmers. So we have farmer cooperatives, so possibly it would benefit them and put little more money in the hands of the cooperatives, through which the farmers could benefit. Staying with the direct taxes, tax relief to persons with disability. This is to do with the life insurance scheme taken by parents or guardians on the person with disability. And usually this lump sum amount received by such person on the attainment of the age of 60 of such parent or guardian. So usually the rule was on the death or maturity, but this sometimes, it would be required even before the parent or the guardian can attain the age of superannuation. So that benefit can be made available to persons with disability, a good move. Then as far as state government employees are concerned, we have had exemption of our own contribution, employees contribution up to 10% of salary, which comprises basic and DA. It is now raised to 14% of salary. And that is to do about investment in NPS in the tier 1 account. And very, very important, this particular initiative would benefit only those government employees whose investments and other expenses which are covered under section 80C and 80CCD 1B, if it is less than 2 lakh rupees. So only if their contribution for 80C and 80 CCD 1B is less than 2 lakh rupees, a marginal raise from 10% to 14% or 4% raise to contribution to NPS would benefit only those people. Those who have already crossed 2 lakh rupees, I don't think this particular initiative is going to benefit state government employee. Then as far as startups is concerned, the tax incentive is extended for 1 more year. That is till 31st of March 2023. Staying with direct taxes again, for newly incorporated manufacturing units, a reduced tax of 15% is extended by 1 more year. That is 23-24 for commencement of or manufacturing or production under section 115 BAB. So we have 115 new section that has been initiated, and this is more so applicable for newly incorporated manufacturing units as far as commencement of their production is concerned. Then litigation management. I believe this is a good move. Suppose if I have certain legal issue, and if there is any related case pending in the court, which is sub judice, then no further litigation will be allowed until the judgment is announced. So once the judgment has come, based on that, the concerned party can file a litigation against the other party. So until then, the litigation will be avoided. So once the judgment is out, based on that judgment, the litigation can be filed. very interesting aspect that we have. That is taxing of virtual digital asset. I believe cryptocurrencies, bitcoins, and all the other forms of currencies that digital currency that we were talking about, there was a worry. Most of them were thinking that the government may ban, but I think taxing 30% is far, far better than a blanket ban on cryptocurrency. Question you may ask, can the government ban cryptocurrency? My simple answer to that question is no, because government has absolutely no control over cryptocurrencies at all. So there is no question of banning it. So better to tax the cryptocurrency transaction, that is transfer of digital assets at the highest rate. And very, very important question people are asking now, can the government identify who has to be taxed? So possibly I may not be able to speak about this taxing of cryptocurrency or crypto or digital assets in this particular video. Maybe we will have another specific video with an expert who will throw light on as to whether the government is capable. Whether it is possible, it's a different thing. Whether the government is capable, whether the government has machinery to tax crypto assets or digital assets, as we are talking about. So presently, we will have a separate video on that. So presently, it is 30% tax. No set-off of losses as a result of holding digital asset is allowed, except in case of cost of acquisition. Whatever amount that you have, the cost of acquisition, that amount can be claimed as deduction. Otherwise, there is no question of set-off of any losses as a result of holding digital assets. Then for capturing, this is one good move. I was talking about the capability of taxation. There is one move that the government has initiated, not one major move, you can say. A provision of 1% TDS on payment made in relation to transfer of digital assets. So just a little hint. There are two ways a transaction can happen on digital assets. First one is peer-to-peer transaction, and second one is through exchanges. That is the WazirX and all other platforms, the apps that we have where crypto or these digital assets are dealt with. Taxing exchanges is perfectly okay. But taxing a transaction, a peer-to-peer transaction, the government, I believe, has no enough machinery to find out, because crypto transaction leaves only an algorithm. There is no paper trail at all. So taxing a peer-to-peer transaction looks little difficult. Also, we now have 2 months period. 1st of March, the budget initiative was announced. We now have, we have time till 31st of March, because this 30% tax will only come for transactions done beyond 31st March. That is 1st April 22 onwards. So 2 months time is good enough for the people to move out of exchanges to the peer-to-peer transaction. This is a very interesting thing. Obviously, this has created a lot of debate, discussion in the virtual world, I should say, concerning the virtual assets or virtual digital assets. And 2 months is good enough time to bring about the required changes and avoid taxation, not evade taxation. So that is what we can say. So 1% TDS is made, and this can be done only for exchanges. Even gifting of digital assets will attract 30% tax in the hands of the recipient. So anyone who is receiving the digital asset is also liable to pay 30% tax. So gift tax has been brought in. That is what we can say right now. Next, tax incentives to IFSC. No tax will be payable by a non-resident from offshore derivative instruments or over-the-counter derivative issued by an offshore banking unit. So this is more to do with international, banking derivatives that a non-resident is involved in. Then rationalization of surcharge of association of persons, especially the companies, when they indulge into works contract, their surcharge goes very, very high, up to 37%. So there is a rationalization of surcharge. It has now been capped to 15% only. Similarly, for long-term capital gain, surcharge on all types of long-term capital gain is now capped to 15%. So that is again a good move, especially for startups and all the other sunrise sector, businesses that we are likely to see in times to come. Then treatment of health and education cess as business expenditure. There are quite a few court cases and the judgments given that health and education cess, that is 4%, up to 4% of the tax amount, can be claimed as business expenditure. So the finance minister has categorically specified that it cannot be treated as a business expenditure because it is meant to fund the government welfare program. So there is no question of claiming this health and education cess of 4% on tax amount as your business expenditure. Even surcharge for that matter cannot be claimed as a business expenditure. Then, as a kind of a deterrence to tax evasion, if any undisclosed income is located, undisclosed income is found out, then there is no question of set off of any losses. Earlier, there was only 30% tax. So no set off of any kind of losses, and there was set off also made available. So no set off of losses will be allowed in case of undisclosed income. This is purely to discourage tax evasion. Next, rationalization of TDS provisions. If the aggregate value of benefit provided by any agent is more than rupees 20,000 in a financial year, then the person providing such benefit is supposed to deduct 1% tax at source. So it will be deducted by the provider of the service. So this is a slightly, very different kind of initiative, very difficult because the person is giving benefit, he is collecting money, and also is supposed to deduct 1% tax as well at source. So when a person receiving the money, deducting tax at source also looks a little, unbelievable. Staying with direct taxes, a big question. Is there any benefit in this budget for the common man or the salaried class? I can say there is. And the benefit, not a direct benefit, but yes, we got a big thank you from our finance minister for being prompt in paying taxes. So thank you is the best gift. Gratitude is the best gift that you can give to a common man or a salaried class. So possibly those who belong to salaried class would have wanted a little more than just words of gratitude from the finance minister. So I believe there is very little, or I could say nothing, as far as salaried class is concerned. Because if you look at industrialists and all other people who are giving feedback about the budget, everyone looks into the budget as to what is there for him or her. If someone from the pharmaceutical says the budget is good, definitely there are certain government initiatives when it comes to the pharma sector. Similarly, from the tourism sector. Similarly, from the micro, small and medium enterprises, and maybe other service sectors as well. But when it comes to salaried class, when we say we don't have anything, I don't think we can give a big thumbs up to this budget. That is speaking from the common man's point of view. So finally, I would like to conclude. This budget is a futuristic and inclusive budget, and it's covering major areas of economic growth. There is no doubt about it. There are quite a few good initiatives, that is in the form of green bonds and other sustainable ideas, which is very much required as far as our country, as far as our economy is concerned. But as I mentioned earlier, it is a big disappointment from the common person's point of view, because in times of difficult that we are in right now, I believe a little relaxation in the form of maybe enhanced standard deduction, say 50 to 1 lakh, if not 1 lakh, at least 75,000, and increase in the cap for ATC from maybe another 50,000 there, 1,50,000 to 2 lakh. I think that would have done a good for the well-being of the salaried class. But since there is nothing, there is no enhancement in standard deduction, there is no enhancement in the section ATC limit, I believe for the common man, this budget is nothing but a disappointment. So that's all I have in my presentation. So if you'd like to connect with me, my email ID and number I have presented. So thank you very much for your patient hearing. So I will see you again in the next video. Possibly that should also enhance our knowledge. So till then, thank you.